we set back in the late 1890s. What's on the way? We're going to be getting hotter, temperatures trending up to around the 90-degree mark here as we start off the week. Expect some dry weather as well, but we'll be talking more about this tonight at 10.
All right.
Weather on the way.
Well, I am going to start the talking because no one's chimed in, but I will be posting these videos until we go larger and longer and have more of a crowd. I am still going to share with my new teachers. New teachers, for those who don't know me, I am Dr. LaQuisha Brandon Wilkins, and I am an administrator by trade. I'm currently the CEO of my own education management organization, and I will be sharing tips and tools and treasures that I've learned along the way, because of course we know anything that you learn in your undergrad most of the time is not transferable when it comes into the classroom. One thing that I do want to share in this 30 minutes, because I will keep these to 30 minutes, I respect people's time. One thing that I will make note of is you using communication. When we're thinking about communication, one thing I wish I knew when I originally went into the classroom was, what's the best way to communicate with parents? Most of the time, there's no one size fits all. You just have to have a universal way of communicating with your parents, making sure that you are keeping communication, constant communication, consistent communication. Yes, you're going to have parents that say that they are too busy, they're too tired, but you still provide that communication, because when all is said and done, there's a lot that goes on. Hello, Moontail, that. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Another thing I want you to look at is making sure that when you are communicating, just don't communicate all negative. Communicate the good. If it's something that has changed, that is something that you notice, make sure that you can have that open line of communication. And most of the time, once you give the parents a good news call, they all in with getting all of your calls, because they know that you see their child for more than just behavior. Another thing that a lot of my new teachers that I've been working with are not familiar with is MTSS. And that's how most schools do business. MTSS is the multi-tiered system of supports. And with that, it is just your tier one are things that the whole school is doing to make sure that you're moving the dial, you're moving the academic dial. Level two is, what are you going to do when those things that are universal to the entire school and accessible to all students does not work? What are you going to do then? Are you going to call in interventionists? Are you going to have the children working on an individual learning path or working on extra practice and skills? Hold 1 second. Yes. Okay. Had somebody to call in. Again, multi-tier system of supports. Make sure that you have a backup to the backup to the backup. When you notice that a child is not moving, they're not progressing the way that you think that they should be, or that's according to their growth measures, make sure that you find something that works. We'll be talking about those some things that work also while having these meetings twice a month, every other Sunday, 6 o'clock for new teachers, 7 o'clock for our stakeholders. The 7 o'clock session, if you new teachers would like to be in that session, that's where you'll hear from the stakeholders, the parents, the families, the community, to really tell you, you'll get a first-hand view of those concerns that actually come from parents. Another thing is, hello, Miss Maria is one of our veteran teachers, administrators that have come in. It's you and I'm going to bring you in. I want to bring you in as my live guest, Miss Maria. You can serve as a It won't let me. I'm gonna do all this good stuff right here. Ah, there you go. Thank you. I think setting it up this way would be good when we have people to come in. Um,
Okay, good.
okay, so I was sharing. We don't have any coming in now. I say until we build this platform till it's stacked. I'm just going to share things out to share with them what types of things we'll be sharing in these sessions. It'll be, I said, every other week, bi-weekly here, 6 o'clock to 6:30 for new teachers, 7 to 7:30 for stakeholders. I even invited new teachers to come back to that because then they'll get a first-hand view of the types of concerns any parents that do come in may have. I
Okay.
shared that one thing. It's what I wish I knew because you undergrad does not prepare us for the classroom. So when we come in the classroom, I told them one thing they have to establish is having communication, consistent communication, talking about the good, the bad. It doesn't matter any concerns, but don't just always call parents with something negative because if you call them with the good, they're more apt to not get tired of you calling after you have to call so many
Hmm.
times. Um, the other thing I was telling was MTSS, and with MTSS, the multi-tier system of supports, every school operates as such. They just call it different things. But here in this recent push for making sure we're closing achievement gaps, what I've noticed is a lot more schools are getting those MTSS coordinators in place because all schools and all teachers don't understand what tier 1, 2, and 3 looks like within their schools. So just telling them that we'll go more in depth with MTSS. I just told them that tier 1 is what every student gets. Tier 2 is those things that you start putting in place within the classroom that the kids may like. Hello, Zara. The kids made the things that the kids may like that's going to help skill build. Those things, maybe giving them a tutor, giving them tutor time during recess, or if they're not in the school that's recess, during the free time of their day, study hall, after school, before school. And then when you get to tier 3, more or less looking at those things. Do we need to go to where? Thank you, Zara. Those things that you go through at their level 3, where those kids need an interventionist more so, more parts of the day or more times through the week. Another thing, Miss Maria, I am looking at is bullying. Bullying is a big thing that a lot of parents are going through, specifically at that middle and high school level. It happens in elementary, but not as much as in middle school and high school. So
Hmm.
when we do start having the new teachers coming in, a lot of the teachers don't know how to deal with it, and they don't want to address it because they don't want to acknowledge it because they don't want it to happen on their watch. And truth is, it's
Hmm.
gonna happen. It's gonna happen. It happened on my watch. It'll happen. It's probably happened on yours. What do you
Yep.
have to chime in with that when it comes to bullying? What tips do you think that new teachers need to know?
Well, with new teachers, one thing that I have experienced with bullying is be careful about using the word too loosely, especially with elementary kids, because you know that if you put a concept in their minds, they're going to run with it. So what you have to do is you have to be very, very careful, not use the word very loosely. You have to change the narrative with these children. You have to let them know there are parameters around it, there are dynamics around it. You have to let them know that if they are and if they feel like that they are being bullied, you have to sit down with them because they're young and they're so impressionable and they have adaptive behaviors. So you have to sit down with them and let them know, okay, please explain to me what you just experienced and let them tell you in their words. Don't ever speak for them. Let them innocently tell you about what's going on and what they think. Sometimes they think that bullying is somebody not agreeing with them, and they got a negative reaction to something that they did. And if you are one of those people that advocates for, self reliance and different things like that, you may look over it or you might not look into it the way that you need to. So uh, get a strict narrative around what it is, and then listen to them, because a lot of little kids don't really know how to explain themselves. So you're gonna have to do a lot of like research and investigation, and then in the school that I'm in, once that happens, once you tell the behavior interventionist, or once you tell the counselor, it's out of your hands anyway, and they're going to do the biggest investigations and all that stuff. But in order to make sure everything is okay, because little kids will go home and tell their parents all kinds of stuff, and you don't know if you're dealing with a narcissistic parent. You don't know if you're dealing with a parent that that thinks that their child doesn't do any wrong, or you don't know if you're dealing with a parent that don't pay any attention to their child, and then all of a sudden, bam, somebody's bothering my kid. Bam, somebody's going to pay for what they've done. Bam, trauma speaks in so many different ways. So you have to be very, very careful. New teachers need to just have your eyes and ears and your mind very, very open. Deal with it immediately. That's another thing. Don't write it down and say, I'm going to deal with this later. If a child comes to you and say that they're being bullied, if they use that terminology, you must stop what you're doing immediately, because 9 times out of 10, that thing is fresh. You need to get the rawness of what has happened, because a lot of times they'll forget. They'll run off and be friends with that person for a while, and then next week they'll be bullied again. It does happen, but smart kids, they're very, coach call them street smart kids. Right. They know how to throw a rock and hide their hand. Right. So you have to deal with it immediately. Write it up, get it to the person that it needs to get to immediately, and handle it. Get it off you, get it on the person that it needs to get on, so it can be dealt with. These children need to know that it's inappropriate to intimidate another child, and once you deal with it, that child will now trust you and say, hey, this teacher is not going to play that. They're going to deal with it. And that's the kind of reputation that you need in a elementary school. I'm in an elementary setting. So like, I don't deal with the middle and the high, them attitudes and things.
I'll chime in on that one.
Yeah, them attitudes and things I can't deal with. I mean, I'm just really, really, I love advocating.
That's what we're talking about. This is transparency here. And thank you, Ms. Maria. The way, with me, I've been an assistant principal and a principal of middle school and at high school levels. What I do I believe in restorative practices. And that's anything other than. When I give suspensions, I always had 100% parent participation, because my suspensions were not punitive. They're restorative. You need to reflect and restore the behavior that we know is conducive to your success. And so with that, I drew anti-bullying contracts. And what that was, when the teachers told me or sent students, I did handle it immediately. I want the raw emotion, and I bring everyone to the table. So if it's a you and a bullying situation, what we go through first is a conflict contract. And what we do is we discuss, everybody has a voice. I put the parameters, the boundaries, the expectations, where we having this discussion, because that's what we're having. You have to know how to express yourself. Once we get to that point, if it is seen as a bullying situation, because parents and students do use it too loosely. So it's an education moment. Anybody that comes to me with bullying, either the aggressor or the victim, I go through an anti-bullying contract that has the definition of what it is at the top. With most of them, especially my girls, I share a video of a lady. She was on Dr. Phil, and she was a melanated lady, and her daughter had killed herself, middle schooler. And I wanted kids to know, you don't know how people internalize what you're doing. And you're not going to be able to tell if they're dealing with something that maybe you have caused until it's too late oftentimes. So what I
Mm-hmm.
want them to know, but in that conflict intervention, they can't even roll eyes at each other. You can't look at them. We can't do any of that. You are to say nothing. If you see each other in passing, go on the opposite side of the hallway. We're not even talking, because when it comes back, that's when we get more harsher consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just the whole thing of educating them. You're going to sign your name. Everybody's involved. I'm going to put that on there. Anybody who is instigators. Instigators are included in their anti-bullying phase as well, because a lot
Wow.
of the stuff is sometimes it's not even you. It's somebody you're following. So at those levels, and most of the time, I'm going to say 90% of the time in my 15 years, it's always worked. Because they'll come to you. They always say no snitching, but they'll whistle blow. They'll come tell you in a minute, well, she said this to me. She rolled her eyes at me, so on, where we can get be more proactive than reactive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which goes also, I have a curriculum that I'm publishing, which has for middle school ages, it has chapter books and all types of bullying situations, and it is a diverse series, and it comes with pacing guide and curriculum guides. So I will be sharing, I will allow new teachers to get it at a discount price, but it
Yeah.
works fantastic. And these are my proven things that have worked in discussions and ways to get the kids to understand it, where when they see it, they say something. And taking away from those
Awesome.
kids that's just standing back watching. Also, you said something about SEL and trauma. I've done a lot of trauma informed training, and I did it. I've been doing it with a group of teachers in Jamaica, and also with some teachers in Ghana. In my applying some of those
Mm.
things with my pen pal with those kids at a school there. But I also have another curriculum with chapter books that's created for grades 2 through 5, 6 to 8, and 9 to 12, which also has a pacing chart guide and a curriculum guide that leads discussions more of the rigorous caliber to make them really critically think and apply it to their everyday lives and make it relevant. So those things we'll be sharing with them also in the days to come. But
Cool.
what else do you think? What can you think of, Miss Maria, that new teachers that we haven't covered in this first little session that they may need to know straight out the gate?
Um, okay. When I was going and getting my bachelor's degree, um, and I'm not gonna name the school that I was in, but one of the classes that I had, one of my EDU classes, was talking about behaviors and those kinds of things. And one of the things that was taught to us in my class was your children, your general children, in your general ed setting, your non-white children will be the ones that give you the most problems. The ones that will have the ADD, ADHD, OBD, ODD, those types of things. So I responded to the teacher, and they will be your um, lower achieving students. So I emailed my advisor and my professor at the time, and I told them that I would not read that ebook any further because it was wrong to first of all, wherever they got the book and did the research, it was wrong. It was stereotypical. It was putting stuff out there that was not true. One of the best students I ever had in my classroom, I was substitute teaching at the time, and I was in class, and there was a kid in there, and he was like, every time I looked at him, he was just smiling. And I was looking like, what is wrong with this kid? And he was with the rambunctious group of kids that was in the class. He was a fifth grader. And I always wonder, and his name was Amir, what is going on with Amir? So I took the little girl, one of the little girls out in the hallway, which teacher left a note saying, "Hey, this kid right here, you can rely on this kid to help you during the class. She knows what's going on. She's one of the smart kids in the class." Took her out in the hall. I said, answer me a question. What is going on with this kid here? She said, "Oh, Miss Harris, he doesn't speak English." And I said, "What?" She said, "Amir is from, I want to say, some part of Africa, maybe Sudanese or whatever. He had been there. You know, they infamous about putting kids, migrating kids, that ESOL kids, but he had no prior English, no nothing, and they put him into just a regular class. He was being pulled out for ESOL, but the day I was there wasn't the time he was being pulled out. And I was appalled. And I was like, what? So the teacher didn't leave instructions of what to do, how to deal with this kid. So what I did was, they were the computers. They had the little computers inside the classroom, the student computers. They had like three of them in each class. They didn't have them like they got now. Everybody got their little,
Right.
they
Yeah,
own
number
computer.
one.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So what I did was this: the teacher was gone for 5 days. So what I
Right.
did was every when that little kid came in, I made sure he was on the computer. I put him on games, ABC games, different things like that. Thinking outside of the box. How would I want my own child to be? So when you have these disparities that happen in your classroom, do not get excited. Don't get anxious. Don't let it overwhelm you. Think outside the box. How would I want my own child to be educated and to be treated if it was me? And
Right.
that's all you do. You
Right.
don't think too hard. Don't think too long. Just do very not minimal, but don't go overboard, because you still have to teach that child like everybody else. But give that baby an opportunity to feel achieved in that classroom. Because can you imagine what that child is going through? Knowing that they can't speak English that themselves. And
Right.
then if you've been taught a certain way, and okay, you have to watch these kids bad, all that. Don't ever go into a classroom with a preconceived notion.
Right.
Deal with your children the
Right.
way they treat and respond to you.
Right.
Everybody has their own way of treating children. Children have their own way of responding to you. I have two biological children with autism, and he's 29 now. He'll be 30 in December. When he was in first grade, I went to and he had a rough kindergarten, went to his teacher and said, "Listen, my son I didn't even get it out." Her name was Miss Brown. She said, "Miss Harris, I am the educator. It is up to me to figure out what's going on with your son. So what needs to happen is we can talk about it as it arises. But I don't want you to tell me anything, because I'm gonna have a preconceived notion about your child, and I don't want to do that. I want your child to respond to me how they respond to me, and then we'll deal with the rest later." I was
Love it.
thrown.
Yes.
I
And
felt so
that's one
good.
thing that a lot of teachers, that's what I'm going to share with the stakeholders. They need to know that. Like,
Yeah,
don't share, don't overshare, because teachers get data. They saw what the child did last year,
absolutely.
behavioral and academic data. But going back to the ESL, ESOL, ELL, EL, whatever your district calls our
Hmm.
students that are English language learners, that is too prevalent. You see a little boy smiling all the time. That's what he's been taught in his culture. Nod and smile, nod and agree. What I do to prepare any teacher that has worked with me is I give universal um, strategies.
Yeah.
So in the classroom, if you're teaching a concept, you're going to use pictures. With most
Hmm.
kids that are ELL learners, I always use pictures. Google Translate. There's a lot of with AI
Yeah.
now, a lot of things translate for them. But I let them know when it comes to English, certain skill building things, I don't use translation because I think it's minimal enough for me to use picture cues to
Yeah.
teach them. But for those new teachers who haven't experienced giving tests, um, they cannot use anything other than those interventions in place if they in their ESOL, ESL plans. We
Hmm.
use a thing called elevation that gives them like their levels, and what they get is their translation dictionary, and
Hmm.
they have to read that screen. It'll read to them, but it's in English. It's not given to them. The only thing that they're allowed
Yeah.
to translate that's translatable for them is science, math. They
Yeah.
will read it to them and translate it for them there. But a lot of the children that I had experience with when they came here, they weren't even excelling and progressing in their own native language. So
Oh
just
wow.
imagine that barrier where they didn't know even kindergarten and first grade basic in their heritage, and then to come here and be thrown that as well. So again, it's
Oh
just meeting
wow.
where they are. Um, Making sure they feel supported. I had even starting a little group within their classrooms. Allow your
Hmm.
ELL students to work together because they're the ones that's dealing with something similar.
Yeah.
A lot can come from that. I think we've covered a lot, and it's good. This live will be shared. I'm going to share it on my page. And
Okay.
then we'll come back at 7, if you may. We'll be discussing some of the same things, but when we touch at school communications from the stakeholder level, just letting them know, to give grace at the beginning of the
Yeah.
school year and to the staff and everything, because everything's a learning process and it's a reciprocal learning process at that. So we're gonna sign off. This has been great. This is good stuff. Girl, I knew you have me. You got it, and we got this. We're gonna grow it to the masses.
Yeah.
Have us over 100, 200 people real soon.
Yeah.
Once they get
Yeah.
to seeing what we have to offer. Thank you again, Miss Maria. Or is it Miss Denise?
Yes.
Or is it Miss Gracie? You tell me before the next one what you would like. Thank
I,
you so much.
yes, absolutely.
All right.